Grand Rises, beautiful folks. Allow me to introduce myself for the people that may be seeing me for the first time, or people who haven't tapped in. I go by the name of Bonafide Queen Bree. Um, you can call me Queen Bree for short. Um, and yeah, so Grand Rises. Hopefully everybody is doing them in the most bona fide way that they know how. It is very sunny on this rise. Um, Feels really good out here, considering that for 2 weeks, um, it literally rained for 2 weeks. Like, it's kind of like what people, they describe the state of Washington as. They say that it rained a lot, and we don't really get a lot of rain out here. So I absolutely appreciate it. I appreciated the rain. It was something different. But I feel the sun is something about the sun. It gives you, if you pay attention, right? Like if you are into like healing modalities and you're into healthy things and things that help to heal and nourish the body, the sun nourished the body. Like some people say, oh, the sun just does something to me, and that's really like my thoughts. Like the sun just does something. It really gives you a great energy charge, and it's really good to get that first like that first sunlight as soon as the sunrise. I think they say it's like the blue sun or something. That's kind of a little deep scientific and on the metaphysical stuff, but yeah, they say that you should get some of the first sunlight, and of course the sun gives you vitamin D and it feeds us, right? For those of us who are deeply melanated, having that carbon melanin and those different substances, and how we have a lot of that in our skin and in our melanin, and we have like the same genetic makeup and compounds as the sun. So for a lot of reasons we call ourselves, well, I'll speak for myself. I mean, besides those of us who are actually tapped in, call ourselves children of the sun, you know? So yeah, I'm really enjoying the sun, and it feels really good. It feels amazing. Anytime I have an opportunity to get in the sun, I try to do that, because it really energizes and revitalizes. So definitely, if that's not something that you guys do, if that's not something that you do regularly, I would advise that you try to make it a routine to get that sunlight, especially if you are very prone to depression, and especially around these times in the holidays, to try to make it your intention and a part of your routine, part of your regular daily activity to get sun. And then, like, I just want to mention, because I noticed too that as human beings, or earthlings, as one may want to call it, like, we naturally want to get out, and we naturally want to get in nature and get outdoors when the sun is out. And when the sun is not out and it's like gloomy and dark and rainy, like it has been lately, we tend to stay inside, right? Or like in hibernation, they say like the winter time is like time for hibernation, and then where people go inside, or some people talk about it's cuddle season or something. But yeah, I noticed that, like, people definitely come out and they intentionally get outdoors and want to get that sunlight. And some people do it naturally, some people are conscious of it, right? And then some people, they don't really do that, or they don't know different modalities or different things that they can do, which is free, to raise your vibe, to raise your consciousness, to nourish your body, to energize your body, recharge your battery, and just feel good, right? The sun is something that's just absolutely free. And you can just get your charge, get your refill, get your boost of energy, all that, get your vitamin D, and then go on about your merry way. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to share is something that I feel as though is very important. There's a bee on my device. And it's so cute. It has like a blue butt, which is weird. I've never seen a bee with a blue butt, but nowadays you just never know what's what, because everything is being tampered with as far as nature and God's creation. Everything is being tampered with by man. But that's interesting. A blue bee. How about that? Okay, so yeah, so what I want to talk about this rise is, okay, now I like bees, but you will be a bee that's just a memory. But yeah, so the topic that I wanted to talk about, if I can, get this, if I can express what's on my mind and what's on my heart, if I can deliver this message, right? So the topic I want to talk about is the topic of what we call God's chosen ones, right? And the topic of people experiencing undesirable circumstances, adversity, negativity, what some may call karma, right? And then what some call, like, people sending them bad energy, bad juju. Some people talk about people being voodooed, or people trying to curse one, right? So the first thing I want to say is that we should be aware that there are negative people in the world. There is people that live in hellish states. There are people that live in misery, and there are people who have ill will and malice and negative intentions, maybe even evil intentions in the world. But I want to start with, in this message, talking about how we have to be aware of the things that we're doing and how that may affect us, how it may affect the people that we love, and then for those of us, such as myself, that are parents, how that may affect our young, right, our children. So it is, in my belief and the way that I was raised, that you can't touch what God has already claimed as his, right? Everybody say, well, not everybody, but a lot of people say, it's a common teaching that they say, well, everybody under God's son is a child of God. I don't necessarily subscribe to that way of thinking. I don't think that everything that is under God's son and everything that's on the planet is a descendant of the highest, is a descendant of the Most High. I don't think that everything is authentic to that particular genetic makeup or the way that God made us. I don't think that everything that looks like me is like me, or that we are of the same origins or the same genetic makeup, of the same essence, if you will, right? So I don't believe that everyone is a child of God. There's a lot of stuff that was just bunched up in a book and in teachings, and it's just like, hey, this is what we said, and you just take that. It's kind of like the Bible, where there was just a whole bunch of different books and a whole bunch of different teachings and beliefs that was put together by man, right? And then taking things from the ancients, those that look like me, right? But for those that subscribe to the ideology as being of the chosen ones of the Most High, of God, I subscribe to the belief and a way of thinking that you cannot touch what God has already claimed as his or hers or its. You can't claim that you can't curse what it belongs to God. You can't curse a chosen one, right? So that's where some of the religious or spiritual teachings come into play. It's not always all about, what religion teaches. And the reason why I say that is because, everybody is entitled to their own belief system. I don't subscribe to Judaism or Judaic type of theology or ideology. I don't subscribe to those religious beliefs. I do respect that it has a lot of good teachings and a lot of good principles. But even when we actually put the religious aspect aside and we talk about energy, science, and karma, that's more of what I'm trying to convey in this message, is that when it comes to the way that we live, our energy, our intentions, and when we talk about energy and when we talk about science and talk about karma, metaphysics, then I think that that's a little bit more of, that definitely is more of what I subscribe to. And I think that that's going to be something that people should really keep in mind and take into account. How are you moving about the earth, and what are you doing? Are your intentions good? How is your thoughts, right? Because the thing is that we're human and we're not perfect, right? And if you actually are the type of person who are accountable for self, and you are actually doing the work or have done the work, and you actually can look at yourself and you can say that you can face your shadows and things, you understand that we are made of light and dark, negative and positive, right? So you understand that our thoughts is not always going to be unicorns and rainbows and absolutely positive and all butterflies. It's not always the highest vibrations, right? But it is an intention. What are our intentions? What are your intentions, right? Because as a woman, I can say that, considering my experiences and the things that I have gone through in my life, and the things that even to present day time, the things that I experience, the people that I encounter, life lessons and things, it's not something, life isn't something where it's like everything is going to always be high vibe and that everything is always going to be perfect and positive. But when we believe that that's the way that it's supposed to be, all we're doing is fooling ourselves. And then if you can't be honest with yourself, then how do you expect to be honest with other people? It really just does not work, right? You can try to deceive other people, but when you go look in the mirror, you can't deceive the individual that you're looking at every day. I mean, if you can, then that's probably a whole nother level of mental illness. So really just acknowledging that we are made of light and dark, and there is a duality. There is evil and there is good, right? But then our intentions should be to always to do that of the goodness, what is good. So when we talk about how the chosen are protected by the Most High, I subscribe to that way of thinking, and that is my expectations, that I'm always divinely protected. But I also live with the awareness that I have to be mindful and I have to be careful about the things that I do, the things that I say, and how I'm projecting myself, and what my intentions are, right? Even in my thoughts, because it's not always easy, and sometimes our thoughts can get the best of us or whatever. Sometimes it's a game of energy. Sometimes it's a game of people on different levels of consciousness, people in whatever traumas and issues that they may have. There's so many things to consider when we talk about the things that may affect us, right? Because when you're trying to master yourself, when one is trying to master themselves, then you take up the mindset and the intention that you are in control of your thoughts, you're in control of, your mind and your energy and how you respond, and obviously not being reactive in things. But it is a journey. And if you are aware of that and that is your intention, you know that it is a journey and that it's not perfect. But if you have that awareness and you have those intentions, then you kind of just take everything one day at a time and practice. Practice makes perfect. So, considering the negative and the positive aspects of it, right? But also, as I said, that is one part of the awareness. But then what are your intentions, right? People wonder why they can literally gather all of these beautiful things and these nice things, and they can have material things, and they can have money that is as tall as the Empire State Building, and they will still be lacking in other areas of their lives. They will still be lacking the spiritual freedom that they need, the mental support that they need. They'll be lacking in the areas of their mental health, their spiritual health, their emotional health, and their physical health. And then their maybe even their financial health. Just because a person looks like that they have a lot of money on paper doesn't necessarily mean that they are financially free, because some people are slaves to their money, right? So, but people have these things and they worship these things, and if they are materialistic and they worship these things and then they become a slave to these things, then they ultimately live a life of misery. They become a prisoner of their mind and a prisoner to the things that has enslaved them. Sometimes it's substances. Sometimes it can be, whatever a person is a slave to, whether that is, certain substances, drugs, alcohol, the P word thing, food. There are so many different things. People, right? There are some people that are literally addicted and obsessed with some people or a person, or, so, again, what is the intentions? People have all of these things and they still live their lives unhappy, and they still live in misery, and they still live in hellish states. And then they'll still try, because of their insecurity and their unhealed state, they will try to project that onto other people, and then make other people feel bad because they feel as though they have all of these things that really is not of much value when you are no longer in this carnation, or when you are alone and when you're by yourself. Because when you're alone and you're by yourself and you don't have any stimulation, or you don't have anything that's distracting you or whatever, it's just you and the silence. And a lot of people, they don't like what they hear or what they see, right? And that can really be a hard thing. But there's also people who live lifestyles that leaves them open and susceptible to lower dimensional beings, if you will, demons, if you will, negative entities, negative energies and things. Sometimes, we talk about the way that we eat, the things that we put in our body. Some people are in bad company, right? And then to take it even deeper than that, some people are actually engaging intimately, physically intimately, and having intercourse with people that are really low vibration, or people that have, a multitude of issues, right? Unresolved trauma, unhealed trauma, and all of this. Engaging with these people is creating karma, and what may look like a curse, or what one may assume that someone has put onto them, right? And when an individual is not able to be accountable for themselves and take full accountability and ownership of their own lives, and not just pointing a finger or saying it's because of someone else. I mean, like I said at the start of the video, we can't just dismiss and then sweep under the rug that there are people who really have negative intentions, that there are people who literally obsess and they keep certain people on their minds, and they can't literally live their lives without thinking about them. They have an obsession. So it can go one way or another. They'll either extremely love them, or they'll extremely hate them or despise them. So there are those people in the world, and if you are the type of person that's dealing with those type of people, you probably should disconnect from those type of people. Anyone that has someone in their lives that are more obsessed with them than the Most High, is that's just a bad recipe for destruction. That's not a good thing, and it's not normal. It's not healthy, right? Even in intimate relationships, you know how we're obsessed with our other half or our better half or whatever, and admiring and adoring and showing love. It's like, that's nice, that's beautiful, and we should be in these ways to a certain extent, but at the same time, there has to be a line that is drawn where it just becomes like there's a mental health issue if a person is that obsessed with you, and if a person is literally, you know, trying to put something on you, as some people like to say, right? So yeah, there are those people in the earth, but then we also have to be really, really have the awareness of how we're moving, what are our intentions, and, you know, what are you doing that is bringing karma back to you? You know, as I said, you know, if people, you know, I said in a previous upload, because I know that there are people who want freedom to express themselves and to experience life in many different ways. And some people, they prefer to experience life with a lot of different people, intimately, physically intimately, right? In that way, in that capacity. I don't resonate with that, but if I know someone who is a friend or an associate or someone who is an adult and they have made that conscious decision, and they, you know, that's something that they desire, that they are interested in, I'm not going to judge them and get down on them, especially if they share that with me in confidence and expect me to be a loving friend, etc. Then that's exactly what I'm going to be, and that's how I'm going to engage as a loving, understanding person. That's your lifestyle, that's not my lifestyle, but I think that we all should be aware of what comes with that. When people are engaging with multiple people or multiple partners, you know, for it's cause and effect. For every cause there is an effect. So if you are engaging in that way, what is going to come of that? You know, like I said in one of the previous videos, you know, I felt like it was very important to mention that you have to be mindful of the health, the mental health and the physical health and the spiritual health of your partners that you're engaging with. Like, of course, their hygiene, and of course their physical health, and how are they taking care of themselves? Do they take care of themselves? Do they have the awareness and the intention? There's that word again, intention. Do they have the intention to take care of themselves? There are people that are living on autopilot and walking aimlessly in zombie mode, and they just, you know, go from one moment to the next, but they don't really have the intentions to take care of themselves. They have the intentions to take care of other people, or they have what they think is taking care of themselves is not actually taking care of themselves, but they look good, they talk good, they smell good, everything looks good on the outside, and it's all superficial, right? Because especially in a courting process, or when you first start talking and dating someone, it's always, you know, all butterflies and beautiful and feel good in the beginning, right? But then as you get to know a person and you spend more time with them, then you get to know more about an individual, and then you start to notice their strengths, their weaknesses, and their flaws. And, you know, when it comes to the energy exchanges and what we call karma, or what may feel like a curse to people, there is nothing wrong with protecting your energy and protecting your whole mind, body, spirit, temple when you are being very choosy about who you engage with, who you let in your life, and especially who you're engaging with sexually. You know, there are people that they are so used to a certain type of trauma or abuse that they think that it's normal, and then what they'll do is they'll go out and attract that same type of partner, and then before they even get in the bed or wherever, you know, before they even, you know, engage in the act of physical intimacy, they'll have these interactions with these people that is very negative, very toxic, and very abusive. And It's like those are the first indicators, but some people, they really don't have the awareness to be able to say, this is what's healthy for me and this is what's not. When people are used to growing up in a certain way, being in a certain type of way, and used to being handled a certain type of way, they think that that's what love is. And then again, they end up attracting that, and they don't really have the wisdom and discernment to tell that, hey, this really isn't good for me. Or sometimes people know, and this is a kicker. Sometimes people know, but they just don't want to be alone. They haven't developed the skills and the discipline to love themselves, to fully love themselves, to be with themselves, and to value, honor, and to protect themselves. So, a lot of people are unknowingly creating their own curses, what looks like a curse or karma in their own lives, right? And then they don't have the ability to be assertive with certain people, or literally communicating themselves and telling someone how they feel or what it is to protect themselves. There is nothing wrong with protecting yourself from people who are not good for you. And not only protecting yourself, that could be your mental health, protecting your mental health, protecting your emotional health, protecting your physical health. But when we start to engage with people that are unhealthy for us, that are toxic for us, and that are bad for us, then we naturally get that karma onto us, is my whole point. So, there's the awareness of, how am I moving intentionally? And, what kind of people am I choosing? Are these people good for me? Right? Because we can love people from a distance. There are people that I know that are like night and day. We're like literally like night and day. But there's some, we all have them. Like, every family or community, they have them. And it's like there is some type of significant reason to have them in your life, but you keep them at a distance, right? So again, protecting your peace. Like, I love you, but I love you from a distance, And then also, with the whole, if people are choosing to engage with people in these sexual ways, really setting your standards a bit higher when it comes to how a person makes you feel is one of the first indicators. And no, we're all not for everybody. At least we shouldn't be. I'm not for everybody. But really looking for high quality human beings, not people that you feel as though, because on the surface, and just basing it strictly off of how they look and then what they can do for you. A lot of that stuff can be so blinding, right? Like, how are they spiritually, for real? How are they emotionally? Do they have your best interests at heart? Are they clean spiritually? Are they clean physically? Do they have good hygiene? And my thing is, like, if you can't choose a high quality human being or someone that is working on themselves to be the best person that they can be, or the highest version of themselves, I would advise people to continue to just have the intention to be open to making friends. But as far as like the physical intimacy part, that should be absolutely out. Like, I'm promoting celibacy, when it comes to that, all day long. I think that if you can't find high quality people to interact with, to spend time with, to have intimacy with, and I'm not talking about physical intimacy. I'm not talking about the sexual thing, because a lot of times people are jumping the intimate part first and they just jump to the physical intimacy part. And then when they hear intimacy, they think, oh, that means we're being intimate. We're jumping right to the sexual aspect. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about courting someone and actually getting to know someone and really figuring out if they're right for you, and not just about oh, we have chemistry, but are you compatible? Are you compatible? And is the person good for you? So people are creating karma and what look like curses in their own lives because of the people that they keep around, because of the unconscious sex that they're having with people. And you know, there's the drinking that you know, the overconsumption of whatever people's vices is, substances, if you will, right? The overconsumption of that, overindulging in things that bring you pleasure, it changes your chemical makeup. It actually affects your mental state, and it's like a chain reaction, and then it leads to, you know, a bigger issue like addiction and things, right? People living with addiction may feel like that's a curse. They may feel like someone has cursed them, you know, but really, again, it's the karma. What is your intentions and what actions are you taking? What are people doing to unknowingly I've heard the word sabotage so many times, and I hear so much of the same stuff that I try to, I just want to say this really quick. This is another reason why when I make my content and when I share stuff, a lot of times I pause and I'm really trying to be intentional and being careful about the things that I say and then what I'm getting ready to say. Not only because I want to deliver the message where you guys can understand what I'm trying to say and that you can receive my message, but also because I don't want to sound like everybody else. I don't want to give the same message that everybody else is giving, but I do want to say what, you know, is on my heart, and then, you know, I want to share what's on my mind, you know. So again, I don't want to sound like everybody else. I love my individuality. I just want to be myself, and I definitely want to share messages, and there's a lot that I want to say, but I don't want to use the same, you know, verbiage. I don't want to sound like everyone else, and I just don't want to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. I really value my individuality and my uniqueness. But yeah, like, people tend to create self-inflicted wounds and create issues for themselves based on the things that they do, right? Like, you know, I crave different foods that are not considered, you know, high vibrational foods or the healthiest foods. I crave different snacks and things, you know. But my intention is to be in a higher vibration and to live high vibrationally, and that includes the way that I eat and the things that I choose to feed myself, right? So if I'm being honest, I can absolutely say that no, I'm not perfect. So, you know, I'm aware that I don't have the most positive thoughts all the time, but I'm working on that. I am aware that, you know, the way that I eat, the way that I eat, Lord knows I can't compete with a jet. My voice can't compete with a jet, but so, you know, my intention and my awareness is, you know, setting and making it an intention to choose healthy foods and what is good for my body, because the standard American diet is trash, and we all know that. But eating whole foods, eating that way, is what's going to sustain your body, and then just having the awareness of what it is that your body needs, right? Because we can tell people how we think that they should eat and what is, you know, best for them. And a lot of times, you know, it is a common thing among some people where some ways of eating, diets, or whatever works for some people. But I will tell you, based off of experience, me trying certain ways of eating because it was my intention to try to eat this way for longevity, it did not work for me. So I don't think that people should tell people this is absolutely the way that you need to eat. No, there's sometimes when we should cut back on certain things that is not good for us. There's sometimes when we need to pray and fast, and for our spirit, for our spiritual health, but also for our mental and our physical health. There's sometimes when we should do detoxes. But then again, what type of detox are we doing? These are things that we have to learn about ourselves. Otherwise, we are creating self-inflicted wounds and self-inflicted trauma and what may feel or look like a curse on ourselves, because people will tell you that you need to detox, or that you need to detox in a certain type of way that they feel as though because it worked for them, or it may have worked for multiple people. But there are people who have gut issues, and if they do a certain type of detox, one thing that people don't tell you about the detox is when you detox things, you're detoxing all of the negative and the bad junk out of your body. But also, while you're detoxing, you're also depleting yourself of the vital nutrients that you need. Supplements and nutrients, vitamins and nutrients, if you will. All right, now. You're going to be a bee that's just a memory. I love bees. I love bees. It's so funny because I talk to bees like that all the time, because, it's common that when people come in contact with bees, they, everybody know they have a stinger. So we have like this anxiety about, oh my God, I might get stung by a bee. But I love bees, and I absolutely love nature. Like I love animals and things like that. That's just how I am. So when I come into contact with bees, I talk to the bees, and I talk to them like that. And literally, I just got that on video, which is crazy, but whatever. Y'all just saw like this quirky part of me, the free butterfly, free spirited part of me. But it's all good. So yeah, where was I? Talking about the way that we eat, and then the whole detox thing. The intentions is good. The intention is always something that we should be aware of. Sometimes the intention is not always enough. But what I would advise folks to do is just make sure that while you are in this incarnation, while you have breath in your body, and while you're living, that we make it the intention to learn who we are, right? As we get older, we're learning other people, we're learning the ways of the world, and we're learning all this good stuff and this beautiful knowledge that so many people have to offer us and to give us, and then we bounce that knowledge off of each other and we're sharing. So that's beautiful. But also, while we're doing that, it is very imperative that we learn who we are. And then back to what I was saying about, in the name of learning who you are and what's good for you, when your nutrients are depleted and your vitamins and nutrients, sometimes when we fast, you can overfast. Overdoing too much of anything is just not good for you, right? You drink too much water, we know how that is. You can drown from the inside out. You can literally dilute your blood. When you overfast, you can literally deplete your whole body of the vital nutrients that you need. Your muscles can start eating itself and breaking down. And then, the gut tends to dry out and things. So it's like we want to take advice from people and things that work for people, and these are really good things, right? Because I actually have done it and I still do it. But while I do that, I have to really tap in with myself and say, okay, Bree, what is it that you need? What is it that you need? And what is it that you don't need? What is it that you can do without? And if I'm going to eat a certain way, or if I'm going to fast or whatever, how long am I going to fast? What type of fast am I going to do? And, really knowing your body and really being aware of what it is that works for you. We have to know what works for us, because people are checking out too from doing like extreme diets, which is crazy. Like that sounds like the S word, right? when I know that probably weren't their intentions. But there's a lot of people who have done what is considered extreme diets, not with the intentions to hurt themselves, but with the intention, such as myself, with longevity in mind, and then found out that didn't work. So that's very important. So again, what are people doing? What are you doing in your life that may be creating self-inflicted wounds, self-inflicted karma, what looks like a curse to you? Is it someone who is bad energy, bad juju, someone who low-key is a hater, or just blatantly dislikes you or hates you? Or are these things that you're experiencing because of your actions, because of your thoughts, because of your intentions? Excuse me. Oh my God, this sun feels so good. So yes, definitely being very aware of, what are the things that we're doing? How are we moving in the world, right? Some people have karma in their lives, and they deal with, they deal with adversity or bad things happening because they have cursed one. Some people have really bad relationships with their parents. Some people have bad relationships with their kids and they abuse their children. Some people have really bad relationships with their family, and if you are moving that way and you are aware, or even moving unconsciously, and really don't care that you are creating these curses, then it's like you have to wake up to that, and you have to become accountable to that. You have to be accountable for your life, and you have to be accountable for the way that you're moving. I always live with the intentions to be accountable for wherever it is that I am wrong. And then also because it's just like a must that I have self-awareness. So with the whole reflection and the attracting, I can't attract people that are unaccountable. You have to have some type of level of self-awareness, or your self-awareness has to be as such as where you are accountable for where you're wrong, or where you may have wronged someone or made someone feel away or whatever, and you have to be able to rectify that situation. You have to be able to right that wrong. And if you are on the other receiving end of that, where you are the one who feel offended, and you're not getting someone who is accountable and making amends, and someone who's literally trying to make peace with you, then you should make peace with yourself and forgive that person. And forgiving doesn't mean that you have to deal with them. You can forgive them and then keep it pushing. Life goes on, right? But then also, we don't want to be moving about, creating karma for ourselves or for our family or our children because of the things that we're doing to people, right? I just can't afford that. But then also, it's not in me. It would literally bother me consciously, even when I feel like those have people who have wronged me or rubbed me the wrong way, right? And I feel as though they owe me an apology, or my heart, a part of my heart wants to a greater part of my heart wants more of a connection or relationship with them than not. But it comes a point when you have to respect yourself and say, yeah, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not doing that, right? People, and then also we want to allow people to be able to be accountable and to show their maturity, because that's how we allow them to grow and to mature. And if an individual is not doing that, then literally you must separate yourself for your peace. And it doesn't mean that we have to live with evil intent or malice or negative thoughts and feelings towards them. We just release it and let them go lovingly, and then we remain in our own peace. And that is my wisdom from my own personal life experiences. So again, as far as being intentional about the things that we're doing to create unease in our life, karma in our life, right? Knowing that your intentions and how you're moving, that energy always comes back. But, as it relates to cursing the chosen one, so a chosen one a person cannot curse a chosen one. You can't curse as I said, you can't curse what God has already laid his hands on and has held claim to, right? You can't curse them, but they can curse themselves. And the only thing that people can do that are that are in that type of energy and have those type of thoughts and those intentions, they can try to do stuff to manipulate the energy, to try to manipulate the game, to try to dump salt or to try to slow you down. But they cannot curse you. Right? You have to know, and this is not me preaching. This is the type of thinking that I subscribe to, that I want to share with you. For those of you who, have concerns of, being cursed, or someone dumping bad juju, someone trying to dump salt, or, the karma and things, you can, an individual that has malice or ill intent, they can try to block or slow down your blessings, right? But they cannot curse you, right? And then also, you don't want to give anyone that much power or claim over you either. They're not the omnipotent being. They're not the highest, right? And as I was going to say, when you know who you are in the kingdom of God, like I said, I'm not saying this to preach, but this is type of the belief system and the ways of thinking that I subscribe to. When you know who you are, you have to know who you are in the kingdom of God. Because if you don't, then that negative energy, the devil, or what they call Satan, that negative energy, whatever you want to call it, it can lay claim to you, and then it can have you thinking all kind of thoughts, or thinking that they are superior over you, or that they have power and authority over you. You have to rise and walk on your journey in life and tell yourself and tell your enemy, that energy, that spirit, whatever it is, that it does not have any authority over your life, that it has no jurisdiction over you. That is the difference between a person who is chosen and who is not, and a person who is chosen and aware, and a person who is chosen and the so-called chosen individual who is not aware. You have to have the knowledge and the awareness and the knowing that you are a descendant of the Most High, that you are a man of the Most High, a woman of the Most High, a child of the Most High. Like I said, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to keep saying it, because people will say, oh, here she goes, she preaching. I know she ain't preaching, and not like I really care, but I'm just saying that because I can just hear it already, right? I am a work in progress, but I've come so far, and I have a lot of experience and wisdom for me to be able to extend this and to share this with somebody. What I really want people to take from this is that we have to have the awareness and the accountability so that we can do the process of elimination, right? You're not out here fornicating. And like I said, I'm not talking about the religious stuff, but it really is a lot of the scriptures and then spiritual stuff and different spiritual systems and practices. It gives good principles and it gives good knowledge to guide you so that we can have ease in our going and our coming, and that our days can be as smooth as possible, right? So, if you're not like out here fornicating, if you're not drinking yourself into drunkardhood, into drunkenness, or being a drunkard, if you're not abusing different substances, if you're not abusing people, Obviously being careful what we let into our senses, our diet, the things that we eat, the things that we take in our eyes, the things that we listen to, the people that we're around. If you are a sensitive person, this message is definitely for you, and you really should be sitting front and center with your snacks, your zoom zooms and wham whams and your popcorn. Yeah, because it's really serious. It's that serious, and it's really that deep. People tend to want to blame other people for the things that they go through, and again, it's not to say that they don't have people in their lives that do not like them, or people that hate on them, or people that want to ruin their reputation and then talk about their reputation, where they are creating a false narrative so that people can dislike them or see them in an unpleasant way just because that person does. I get it. I know it. I have lived long enough to experience some people that are very challenging, and people who have created and caused so much karma for themselves that they refuse to look at themselves, and they refuse to learn how to deal with themselves and how to love themselves and how to face their shadows and their demons and the devil within. Because a lot of times we talk about the devil outside, and there is the devil outside, but there is a lot of devils outside. And even though we can acknowledge that, there is the devil within as well. So it's like, which energy are we rocking with? Which energy are we really vibing on, right? And when people have a lack of awareness and a lack of accountability, they're always going to point the finger at the other person. That's a very common thing. They point the finger at the other person, then they develop feelings of resentment and they despise that person. And then what they do, they feel as though they can't get at that person. So what they tend to do is they'll try to dump salt, like people say, the voodoo, where witchcraft get a bad name, right? And the trying to curse a chosen one, or trying to curse one, whether that be a chosen one or not. But I'm really talking about the chosen one here, because I feel like there's some people that can use this message if they really tap in. People that live unconsciously and are not self-aware and has not done the work and has not faced their shadows and really learn to love all their flaws and all aspects of themselves. Because like when I started this video, I started out talking about how there is the light and then there's the dark aspect, and there is the duality. People, for some reason, it seems as though people want to dismiss the duality, and it could be because they feel like, oh, all is one, all is one, all is one. Absolutely, all is one. But at the end of the day, there is that negative aspect, and then there is that positive aspect, right? And the only way that you can correct something, that you can heal something, or that you can create a better outcome for whatever something is that is negative, dark, or that is undesirable, is first for you to conceive the thought and for you to have that awareness. And then once you have that awareness, then you have to figure out how to change it. That's the power that we have. So as far as, one trying to curse a chosen one, they can try. You just make sure that you're on your path, on your journey, and that you're doing the right thing. Does that mean that it's always going to be peaches and cream, rainbows, unicorns, and butterflies, and everything is going to be, just a straight line, and it's always going to be up? It's not always going to be positive. Everything, all of our days, it's not always going to be, in the highest vibe and the highest frequency, how we wish that it was, right? But we can live with the intention to create that type of lifestyle, and living with the awareness of knowing that sometimes we can create the trauma, the unease or the dis-ease or the karma or the curses as a chosen one, based on the things that we choose to do, based on our actions, our intentions, the way that, the thoughts that we conceive, and the thoughts that we let fester, because our mind is a very intricate, complex thing. So it's natural for the human mind to go in a lot of places that it shouldn't. A neurologist will tell you, or a brain surgeon, or the doctor that studies the brain, a psychologist, if you will, a psychiatrist, if you will, they will tell you that it's a very complex thing, and that if we think approximately 70,000 thoughts a day, that should let you know right there that there is no way under God's green earth that we're going to think all positive thoughts. But who are you? Who are you for real? Are you a positive person? Are you a happy person? Are you a genuine person? Do you live with the intentions to be peaceful, happy, and joyful, and spread love, right? It's all about the intention. So again, it's just, it's the intention. It's the awareness of knowing how you're moving, and knowing how you're making people feel. But then also people should be expressing themselves, especially as an adult. We would hope that some adults knew how to express themselves, and even if one rubbed them the wrong way or offended them, that they would have the ability to communicate that, so that a person will have the opportunity to change that, because that's also important. I just felt like that was so important to say. It really is. We have to have accountability. As long as we know that we're moving right and that we're doing the right thing, and we're not out here moving weird and causing and creating trauma and karma for ourselves, then there's really nothing to be worried about. Some things, on the other hand, lastly, I'll say, some things is just a part of life. Some things that happen is just a part of life. Like, I also subscribe to the thinking and the belief that everything happens in divine time, but things also happen in God's plan, or the divine's plan as well. Some things are just absolutely out of our hands. It's out of our control. And sometimes we get in our head, and we may think that we're being disciplined, and that it's something that we did. Sometimes it's not even something that we did. Sometimes it's literally by the divine's intervention. And for the people that come across this video, and if you actually have made it this far in the video, I want you to share with me if you have a story or a comment that you can share with me about a divine intervention that you had. I just screamed like a little girl. Oh my God. I almost got stung. I absolutely had a divine intervention that happened in my life recently over the last 2 years. And oh my God, it is what an experience it was. It's a really deep story. And only, again, if you are aware, if you're spiritually tapped in and things, then you will be able to notice this and acknowledge this. The divine will speak to you in so many ways, and there's so many different things that will happen, different things that will transpire, and so many signs and synchronicities and people, and just it's a multitude of things in this ecosystem, in this planet that we live in, where spirit, the divine, or God, whatever you subscribe to or how you call it, will speak to you, will show you things. And then there's just some things that when you're tapped in, you just know that was divine intervention, that was God, that was spirit. You know what I mean? So I would love to hear from people about different divine interventions, whether that was something that you thought was something that was negative, that negatively affected you really bad. If that was something that was a divine intervention and you felt like that was right on time, and it was more so something that you felt like it was really positive out the gate, because sometimes a divine intervention, initially, it does not feel good, because whatever it is that you may be experiencing and whatever it is that you may be going through, but when you mature in your spirituality and as you grow, you are able to have the wisdom and discernment and be able to look at certain things and say, hey, this was happening for my highest good. It did not feel good. It didn't feel good at the time that I was going through it, at the time that it happened, but I recognize that today, that it happened for my highest good. So I definitely want to hear from you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and close this video. Stay positive, stay encouraged, and make sure that you're moving that you're moving in the way that you should be moving, so that you don't have to worry about someone trying to negatively affect a chosen one. Ashe.